Are you tired of setting the same goals year after year and constantly feeling further from reaching them? We've all been there. It's not that you're not working hard enough, you just need a new system. By focusing on building habits and systems based on your own personal goals, the goals themselves will be realized. My name is Robertson, and in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to set goals and build systems by utilizing knowledge derived from my own personal experience as well as the knowledge of experts such as James Clear, as seen in his bestseller, Atomic Habits. A book I have personally read several times and 100% recommend. I also more selfishly highly recommend that you get it from the affiliate link in my description below so that I can continue to make videos like this and buy groceries and more books and stuff. Let's get to learning. First of all, in order to actually set goals, you need to know what do you want. More specifically, who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be? Not what, but who.
Funnily enough, I was writing a blog post about this a couple of hours ago, and I was sort of envision some point in the future when you want to reach these goals, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now. Close your eyes and envision this future. What are you wearing? Who are you surrounded by? What's your career like? Have you shifted careers? What do you do creatively? What's your bank account looking like? What's your health looking like? Your fitness, all of these things. How are you feeling? And more importantly, why are you feeling that way? Then look at how did you get there? What have you accomplished? What have you done? What were your big moments, your big achievements? And what is your day to day? What do you do on a daily basis that ensures that you are in that position? Once you know all of this, then you can move on to the goals. P.S. I probably said this before, you probably heard before as well, but writing down your goals increases the chance of your goals becoming true by literally 40%. So if I were you, I would write down my goals. Also, just because of the power of it, I would recommend you to write your goals by hand. Once you have your goals, which by the way should be very specific, not oh, exercise more, study more of this, more of that, less of that, but should be bam, bam, bam. Study that much a day, work out that much a week, stop this entirely, or only do this 2 times a week, or whatever.
Will not fantasize about a particular person who embodies all these.
And personally, I would recommend to not only do that, but to set your goals as SMART goals, which I've gone over before, so I'm not going to blab on about them right now. But basically, they should be specific. Ask yourself, what I want to accomplish. They should be measurable, so ask yourself, how will I know when this is accomplished? And write all of this down in your notebook, by the way. They should be achievable, meaning ask yourself, how can this be accomplished? You have to know not only what you want, but how you're getting there. They need to be relevant, truly, truly relevant. So ask yourself truly, because we can wish for whatever, but if we're not actually interested in it, it's just 100% not going to work. So truly ask yourself, does this seem worthwhile to me? Is this truly relevant for me as a person? Do I think this is something that people would want, or do I want this? More specifically, you can just write down, does it seem worthwhile? Then it has to be time bound so that you actually go after it and go after it now. Ask yourself, when can I accomplish this goal? Write down a true timeline. I also recommend that you break your goals into smaller parts and sort of for example, if you're looking at a year, look at what should the progress be on a month-to-month basis. And if you're looking at numbers, for example.
Okay, throw me some numbers.
Then try to figure out okay, what should the number look like from month to month, each month. And of course, think about whether or not it's compounding the same each month, or if it's an exponential kind of growth. But if the goal is more of a one and done, then look at the different steps and which steps you think you should do each month or each week or each day, even depending on whatever your goal is. Then to reach goals, obviously we need habits. the goal is to close the gap between what we're doing now and that person we were envisioning ourselves to be. And so to do that, you gotta look at which habits that I have right now that don't serve me anymore, bad habits that I gotta shed, and which positive habits do I definitely have in this version of myself that have gotten me to that point. Once you look at that, once you're able to close the gap, you know which habits were fostering and which habits were unaliving. To look at how to implement these habits, we're gonna look at how habits are built up based on what I learned in Atomic Habits. But first I want to say, if you got value from this video so far, please subscribe. Habits are built up by a problem and a solution. And within this problem, we get a cue and a craving. And in the solution, we get a response and then a reward. For example, I drink energy drinks. I know it's bad. And the cue can be that I'm tired, for example. The craving is that I feel like I will be refreshed and awakened if I drink some Lewis Hamilton energy drink. And that's the problem side. The solution is that my response is to crack open an energy drink and drink it, and the reward is that I get sort of a caffeine high and I like the taste of the energy drink. Now that we know how habits are built up, what do we do with that? Well, we look at each component and see how we can use it to foster a good habit or drown a bad habit. By using the cue, we can make a good habit obvious.
Isn't it obvious?
And we can make a bad habit hidden. For example, if you have a sweet tooth like I do, you can put grapes on the table, you can put apples on the table, all of this like in a big, beautiful bowl, and then you can keep chocolate in the cupboards in the damn dark. Or better yet, not even buy them at all. And if you've seen those studies about how people eat more chocolate when it's readily available on the desk, you know that this works. When it comes to the cravings, you gotta play some like Yoda mind games, because we have to make the good thing attractive and the bad thing unattractive. I personally think that one of the best ways to do this is to learn more about the options, so to speak. Like, I know that most people who have stopped eating meat, for example, myself included, have stopped because of like documentaries and articles and just all of the knowledge that you get where you see like, oh shit, that's what happens to the animals, that's what happens to my body, to the earth, and it just becomes very, very unattractive, you know? Same as like a lot of people quit smoking after we figured out how dangerous it was and like what those lungs look like or whatever. Obviously, that's not the whole solution, and it really depends from person to person how strong the habit is, but it's definitely a start. On the flip side, I personally eat apples for the value because I know what kind of vitamins it has. Not because I'm necessarily like craving apples, but if I do feel hungry, I think like, oh, seeing as this has that good nutritional value, I guess I should eat an apple. Another way, and probably the biggest way, and one of the key takeaways from James Clear's Atomic Habits, is actually to work on your own identity.
But now that I'm gay first and that's my identity, then maybe I should just be plowing a bunch of dudes.
For example, if you have been a smoker and you no longer wish to be a smoker, when someone offers you a cigarette, instead of saying like, oh no, I'm trying to quit, just simply say, no, I'm not a smoker. Don't leave any leeway. Like, for example, I don't really drink. Like, sometimes they actually do. But either way, when someone asks me without even thinking about it, I'm always just like, oh no, I don't drink. You know, I don't say like, oh, I'm trying not to drink so much, because it sounds like, oh, I'll have one. I'm just like, I don't drink. And that's also so that people just don't ask, you know? Because if you say you're trying, then people might be like, oh, come on, cheat day. But if you're like, I don't do that, and people will be like, oh, okay. And when you combine those words with actions, when you say, oh, I'm not a smoker, and you actually don't smoke, eventually you'll automatically just be like, oh, I'm not a smoker. And here's the kicker. Your brain really, really hates cognitive dissonance, like basically more than anything. So if you're like, oh, I'm a vegetarian, oh, I run every day, and you consider like breaking away from that, your brain will be like, this doesn't make sense, that's not who you are, that's not our identity, and it will be really hard and unattractive for you to steer away from that, because you also, without knowing it, really want to be in line with yourself and how you view yourself. You know, we don't like to step outside of our identity, and especially when that identity is very positive and making us feel good. And when you change your identity for the better, you're just doubly motivated to really be that person. Moving on to the response, we can make something easy or we can make something hard.
Phrasing, boom!
If there's something you want to do, you want to make it easy. For example, if you want to drink more water, leave water bottles around, stock your fridge full of water bottles. Making things easy can be really easy. And then with making things hard, try to, like I said, out of sight, out of mind, but even if it's in mind, try to make it difficult to get to. Like, imagine if every time you went to scroll on Instagram, you had to log into Instagram. That would cut down severely on your use, right? I know for me at least, if I went to just quickly go check Instagram and I was like, oh, I'm logged out, I'd be like, oh, never mind. Instead of that happening accidentally, just do that on purpose. Just log yourself out of apps you're not supposed to be on, so you have to take the time to actually log in to go on them. For the reward portion, you can make something satisfying or unsatisfying. One way to make things satisfying is with another takeaway from the book, which is temptation bundling. For example, I'm like, if I'm working out, I can watch whatever I want. If I want to watch Netflix, if I want to watch YouTube, like whatever, the world's my oyster, no restrictions. Like normally, if my tasks aren't done, I can't sit on the couch and watch TV. But if I'm on the elliptical or if I'm doing yoga, I can 100% watch TV. And that makes the temptation bigger. If I'm like, oh, my head is so stressed and I just want to watch like an episode of Archer, I'm like, okay, if you really want to watch an episode of Archer, the elliptical is right there. You get 2 hours a day, so go ham. So then go on the elliptical and watch Archer. That makes it satisfying.
Phrasing?
But to make something unsatisfying, big thing James Clear says is that we remember the end of things better, you know, like speeches and stuff, we obviously do. And that goes for feelings as well. So if you can sort of ruin the ending of something you're not supposed to do, that makes you less tempted to do it. For example, if every time you drink a beer and finish the beer, you had to eat just like something you truly hate or like chew on it or whatever and like ruin the taste in your mouth, that can make it sort of like, oh, I don't know if I want to drink another beer because I really don't want to taste that thing that I really hate. Or just as in the same way as you can make a habit satisfying by rewarding yourself. For example, if you do your workout 5 days in a row, maybe you get to watch one of your favorite movies or something, just some type of reward. In the same way, if you do a bad habit, you can punish yourself. Like if you decide how much screen time you're supposed to have every day and you go over your screen time, you might be like, okay, well, tomorrow I can't be on my screen for more than like half an hour and I have to do 100 push-ups or whatever. Just something that sucks for you personally so that you're like, oh, I really want to watch another TikTok, but not if it means having to do all of those push-ups. Quick PS before we move over to systems. If you're really interested in improving your life and are sort of into the whole self-help thing but don't have time to read all the books and also want something more actionable than just a book but one more of a planner that maps out like, okay, these are the things you need to learn and here are tasks to do every week that will keep you on track and make you the best version of yourself, well, you're in luck because me and a friend of mine who's a successful entrepreneur wrote a book, 100 pages, called 1 Year to Becoming Your Ideal Self, Unleashing the Power of Thought, Habit, Creativity, and Wealth. And this book is created to be fun, like one of those cute Hello Kitty diaries you had as a kid that ask you questions like, what's your favorite color? It's sort of like that, but it also has these pages of knowledge in between so that even though it's very actionable and you're answering these questions and you're doing these tasks, you're also doing just a little bit of reading just to learn a little bit of like how to achieve financial health and how to be creative when you also have a 9-to-5. Definitely check that out. That would mean a lot to me. I worked on it for like a year and right now it's on 25% off. Moving on. Here's the system. First of all, once you know what habits you want to implement and not just like, oh, I want to eat fruit, but literally when are you buying the fruit? When are you eating the fruit? If you're going to work out, what are you working out? when are you working out? Once you know the like, I'm doing this on Thursdays, I'm doing this on Fridays, I'm doing this every morning, and then we can move on to time blocking. I talk about time blocking a lot because it's brilliant. And what it is basically like, map out your week on a Sunday. Monday from 8 to 10, I'm doing this. Friday from 6 to 8, I'm doing this. Like for every hour, map out what you're gonna do. And obviously, yes, it can be flexible, things happen. But in general, have a guideline, because that way you can also write down your habits and you don't have to remember them on top of your head. And that's why I also said, like, figure out when you're doing the habits, because if you don't, if you're like, oh, drink more water, but you don't know when to drink water, it's gonna be hard to actually do it, and specifically to keep it like at the same level from day to day, you know? We don't want it to just be like some half-heartedly thing where some days you don't do it at all and some days you go overboard, because that will just make the habit very like uncomfortable for you and feel more like a goal than a habit, and it should be something you can implement. And one way to do this, and keep this in mind when designing your time block as well, is actually to habit stack. So what that means is that when you know what habits you want to implement, see how they fit in with other habits you already have, so you can make it kind of easy for yourself to remember and to do. For example, if you want to start doing a skincare routine, I would advise you to habit stack that by doing it every day after you brush your teeth in the morning and at night. Stack the habits on top of each other so they become a natural part of your routine. And then figure out some type of system to keep track of your habits. I like writing things down, crossing things out. And that's one of the benefits with time blocking as well. Since you have one time block for literally every day, you can just cross it off when it's done. That's something I like to do. I get that not everyone would like to do that if they are more artsy time blocks or whatever, but I really can't draw, so I'm just crossing it out. Important thing to remember though is that when it comes to like crossing things out and all of that and keeping track is really, really good and it's really important. But equally important is being forgiving towards yourself.
It's not your fault.
And this isn't just because of your feelings, because like I personally a lot of the time don't care about my own feelings. That's something I'm working on. But if I'm being entirely honest, you should be forgiving with yourself no matter what, because it's more productive. People who forgive themselves when they slip up are actually more likely to reach their goals and implement habits and like keep it going. If you hate yourself for slipping up, then you're probably gonna hate the habit itself also. So because of that, and because you don't want to put any negative feelings towards this, it's actually better to not be soft on yourself. You still have to make yourself do the thing you're supposed to do, but to be forgiving, be like, oh, I slipped up. Well, I'm not gonna slip up tomorrow. And obviously optimize your physical space. We've basically been on this, like just making things easy or hard, whatever really impacts our habits. And also, you know what? Our physical space makes us feel a certain way and feel like a certain type of person. So at least try to hide things that make you feel bad and try to put the things that make you feel good front and center. And like if you want to read more, then put the books by your bed and put your books out in general. If you want to drink less, then hide your alcohol bottles. If you want to clear your mind, then clear your space, clean up, tidy up. You know, without having to spend any money on it or anything, try to make the space you're in a space where the version of yourself that we were envisioning at the start of this video could live their lives logically. Not even like, oh, this is what they want, this is what they prefer, but like, can they do their day-to-day there? If not, then that's a problem. Just things like actually rolling out your yoga mat or not having your desk cluttered when you're supposed to write, you know? Just think about that. Think about how's this space affecting me, my emotions, but also my actions, and work on that. Have fun with it too. Another way to really stay on track and definitely to change your identity as well is to figure out your why and stick by that and keep reminding yourself of it. To get to the root of your why and see how you can implement it in your life to achieve your goals, then watch my How to Exit Your Lazy Girl Era and Enter Your Productive Girl Era video that I'm putting on the screen right over here. That being said, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Love ya. Bye.